All right, Crim 11. Let's get into Chapter 11, which is drugs and delinquency. I usually have a really fun in-class exercise to do for this, where I ask all of you to admit on a piece of paper anonymously what kind of drugs you have tried. And it's always interesting at the end of the day to see the things that have been tried, even among criminology students. But anyways, obviously we're not together right now, so I can't do that with you. So let's, oops, here we go. Click on, we're gonna skip this thingy-majiggy. So why are juveniles drawn to illicit drugs? As you can imagine, there's about 1 million reasons why a kid or a person in general might want to use drugs. Escapism, maybe they're curious, maybe they're addicted, maybe they've learned that drug use from someone else. So there's a bunch of different ways why someone might try illicit drugs. And then this slide has kind of the continuum from a non-user to an experimental user to a culturally endorsed user. That might be someone who's, you all sit at home together and smoke weed. I don't know. Recreational use, you go out and party on the weekends. And then you have compulsive use, which is a whole next level drug addiction type of use. Substance abuse and delinquency, as you can imagine, go hand in hand. I don't think there's I don't think it's difficult to make the connection between the two. So for adolescents, alcohol is the drug of choice. Overall, rates of illicit drug use peaked in 1979 and then leveled off. In 2001, there was a downturn in drug use levels, and increased use started up again in about 2008. An estimated 22.6 million Americans ages 12 or older were current, meaning within the last month, drug users. This included things like cocaine, heroin, hallucinogens, inhalants, prescription-type psychotherapeutic drugs used for non-medicinal purposes. So, who uses drugs? Age, gender, do they live in the city? Or are they living out of the cities? Social class, availability. And I think most of us would probably say that a lot of the drug use is kind of across the board, between younger and older youth, boys and girls, living in big cities or in rural areas, the rich and the poor, and drugs are available everywhere. So people using drugs over the past month, 12 and older, shows the percentages here on this screen. So obviously marijuana is the drug of choice, and this is from 2015, which is probably going to make it a little more accurate with those prescription pain relievers, because that's been something that's been becoming more common in our society. So, but anyways, you can kind of see what people are using. The licit and illicit drugs used by adolescents in decreasing order of frequency. So alcohol is the most common and heroin is the least common. And you see the list in between. So you don't need me to read that to you. But tobacco, obviously, you know that is a substance that is in most cigarettes. Marijuana is typically a depressant. Cocaine, typically a stimulant. Methamphetamine, typically a stimulant. Inhalants, I believe that those are either depressants or hallucinogens sometimes. Sedatives, stimulants, steroids. Anyway, so the list goes on. Already talked about this. Alcohol is legal, so that's why it's called a licit drug, and marijuana is illegal, except for in California. But when this book was written, this book wasn't written for California. So, what else? How many had smoked cigarettes? Just kind of go through here. How is drug use linked to delinquency? Well, it's illegal to use drugs, so the act of drug use in and of itself is a delinquent act. Risk factors related to delinquency and drug use. Early factors, you could have learning disabilities, physical abnormalities, and brain damage. Have a poor family environment, history of alcoholism, family conflict. And then if you're a drug addict or a drug user, typically you're going to be living in a disorganized area where there are others like you, and then antisocial behavior and academic failure. Nearly 50% of serious juvenile offenders were also multiple drug users. 82% of these offenders reported use beyond experimentation. Rates of alcohol use among serious offenders is 4 to 9 times those of non-offenders, and marijuana use 14 times that of non-offenders. So obviously delinquency and drugs do definitely go hand in hand. Then you have drug dealers. You all knew someone at your high school, maybe here at City College too, who sells drugs. And there's different types of drug dealers. There's some that, maybe just sell to their friends occasionally, and there's some who sell drugs for a living. A lot of times your drug dealers are going to have gang affiliation as well. So, reasons for drug use. At least 2 issues can help us understand juveniles who use drugs. There's all kinds of theories about why people use drugs. You can read them at your convenience. Just press pause. How do we control drug use? The question of the decade, of the millennium. Prevention programs, treatment programs, strict enforcement, and harm reduction. So prevention programs, you probably all can remember being in the, what was it called? Red Ribbon Week. Prevention programs. Like when I was a kid, it was Say No to Drugs. I think it was McGruff the Crime Dog. Basically, everything that we've tried to use to control drug issues has failed at this point, but these are 4 possible solutions. Again, brief description and evaluation. And that's it. That was too easy.